Hey everyone! Guess what time it is? It's time for a couch for it. I don't know what that voice was.
I
Uh,
don't know. This is a strange new opening that Drew was trying.
I just wanted to test something out, and it didn't work, so we're gonna move on. I'm
We
Drew.
can swiftly move on.
We'll just we'll just brush that under the rug and move on. I'm Drew Tillman, as always, and I am joined on this giant blue couch by my co-host and friend.
Hey, I'm Volly.
And today we're gonna tell you about episode 4 of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I got it right,
Nailed
everybody.
it. You nailed it.
That's right.
You nailed it.
I'm amazing at this. I am a streaming professional.
We are professionals. We have yet to be paid, but we are going to call ourselves professionals. Because we are. We are.
Exactly. We are.
We have this every single way. So this episode, basically, Sabrina goes to school.
Honestly, yeah, that's
And that's a wrap, guys, because I'm super tired. Um,
No,
yeah.
what are your initial impressions? It can't just be Sabrina goes to school. While
Okay.
that describes what happens.
So
That
my
can't
initial
work.
impression is like, she went to school. No. The initial impression, technically my second impressions of this are, I'd kind of forgotten this episode in its entirety. I don't know what it was. I just didn't remember it. It's an okay episode. It's it's not the greatest, and it seems a little randomly placed. I'm not gonna lie. It seems out of place. That's my initial analysis of this. Drew.
I have to kind of agree. This one feels more like a setup episode in the terms of like the way Netflix kind of
Yeah.
structures their shows. This feels like it should have been like one of the first 3 rather than episode 4.
Yeah, which is strange because the last episode very much felt like a setup episode. And it was supposed to set up her going to school. And the school feels like a setup episode. I feel like we're just like
We're going
I,
in
I
circles.
yeah, like we're just like there's a logic error somewhere. Like, if A goes to B and you get to B, it's like go to A. Wait, what? Huh? I don't yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of
I'm
a
not saying it's a terrible one.
it's a weird episode. It does feel out of place, but
Hi, undead.
it's fine.
Happy super blood wolf moon lunar eclipse. Wait, there's a lunar eclipse on today?
Oh shit. Also, my internet's unstable, so
Oh no.
hopefully it doesn't drop out.
The Twitch machine got unplugged.
No, I don't think it's the Twitch machine. I think it's my machine.
Yeah, you super froze.
Yeah, great. So if it goes real bad, we'll apologize and we will be back as soon as I figure out why the fuck my internet.
Well, I hit refresh and you're back, my dude.
All right, well, let us know if it goes down, I guess. Valanda will find out.
I cursed it. I said eclipse and suddenly everything stopped working. So I feel that might be me.
Don't say eclipse. We've now discovered something. So
Cool.
let's dive in. I have notes.
I stunningly do not because I was eating my dinner during this, and then when I realized I was going to make notes, I realized it's halfway through the episode and thought, well.
But as usual, I have notes. Don't worry, I'm here to save the day.
You the man. You the man.
So we open on the group of friends, Susie, Roz, Sabrina, and Harvey inside Cerberus's bookstore, where where I finally noticed that there's a tiny cafe and then bookstore. They're like separated. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, the bookstore's like one area. I like the fact it's a really small thing. I like the fact that the menus have a coffin on them with a lacrosse. It's so good.
I agree.
Attention to detail. Attention to detail is so good.
This place is I would go to this place. I would go to Cerberus's bookstore.
It is clearly the cheesiest thing in the world, but it's kind of cool. Like
Yes.
I would go. I've been to like nerd cafe places, and they're kind of fun for a bit. They're kind of good. I kind of get that vibe here.
Yeah.
But the mortal friends are talking about a film they've just seen because that's what they do.
Yep.
And I believe they were watching The Fly.
Yeah, they were talking about The Fly and about how it is oh my god, what was it? It's a metaphor for
Body dysphagia.
maybe I don't remember what the first thing they said was. I do remember Harvey's follow up with I'm Real Dumb isn't about a guy who turns into a fly. And Sabrina like patting him on the head like a puppy dog, like, that's okay, Harvey. Yes, the first one was about that, but Cronenberg said it's about STDs. And
What?
they kind of just shut Harvey down.
Again, like this poor guy. Like,
Yeah, he doesn't.
he really is the token boyfriend in here. He so is, and it's so terrible to see. And I hope they readdress this later. Like, they don't keep making him the worst character. Like, that's not fair. Don't do that. Like, everyone should be strong. There's a reason to have worst. No, please don't do this.
They're kind of like passingly mean to Harvey in the way that like they just don't necessarily engage with Harvey.
Yeah, they're very dismissive.
Yeah. And instead of being like, oh no, it's about that because here's all the reasons why it is about that, they just blow past his, I thought it was about a guy turning into a fly. And instead just move on. Like, okay,
It's like,
guys.
no, you're like, yeah, she does that pat thing as well. Like, I think she pats him on the leg.
I think so.
Like, it's that kind of like, and he's now buying into this thing where he is the dumb person in the group. It's like, no, he's very talented. He's a very talented artist. Like, that comes from like observing and seeing things and absorbing things. And like, he's clearly not like that dumb of a person.
Yeah, he's very much at the stage in his art career of things are just what they are. So a scary thing is just a scary thing and not a representation of something else.
Yeah.
It's fine.
He definitely has a reality to his character in this. It's kind of funny, but poor Harvey, man. But yeah, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and sometimes a film about a man turning into a fly is just about a film of a man turning into a fly.
Exactly. Although since it is Cronenberg, it probably is STDs. Cronenberg was a weird director. I don't watch his movies, everyone. Just don't.
Okay.
Anyway, so
official recommendation.
Just don't do it. We'll talk about one another time.
Of course. Yes.
So Roz asks the group what they're going to do this weekend because she doesn't want to lead a youth group at her parents' church. So she's like, "Hey, what are we doing? What can get me out of this thing?" And Susie's like, "Oh, well, my dad's at the Farm Expo." First of all, what?
Well, it's like a South. Okay, we have something called the South of England show here because I live in the South of England, and it's literally about tractors and farming. It's amazing. They also have lawnmower racing. So.
Okay. I knew lawnmower racing was a thing, and I knew like tractor racing tractor pulls were a thing.
Yep.
Okay, I stand corrected. Having come from the South, I should know about farming expos.
You can race lawnmowers on like a certain around a track, and then there's also like the ploughing competition with how quickly you can plough a field. That's like a day-long event, obviously.
My internet connection went weird again.
No.
All right. Fuck, what is going on with my internet tonight?
Is it? Yeah, it's. I don't know, because you're not really freezing that much on me anymore.
Yeah. What the fuck? Hey everyone. Sorry if we froze for a minute.
Sorry. It's all Drew's fault.
Oh, okay. Well, Undead said it's not my fault because it didn't happen for him.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, Susie's like, well, my dad's at the Farm Expo, and then Roz is like, okay, Sabrina, what are you doing? And she, most obvious lie in the world, is like, yep. I'm also going to the Farm Expo to sell honey.
Where did they keep the bees?
Inside the dead bodies.
Oh, clearly, yeah. 'Cause that's not weird at all. Gross.
They're witches. I don't know what you want. Okay, they are very special people.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they own a mortuary, and they have a guy who does everything in his dressing gown. Even his suit looks like his dressing gown. It's a little unusual, but we didn't see any bees there. Why did her friends buy this at all? I don't understand.
It doesn't matter. They are beautiful. I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like if she was looking at a packet of sugar, she would be like, "Oh yes, my aunt's homemade sugar."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But she's telling this lie because she's going to the Unseen Academy and she can't tell her mortal friends.
No.
And we cut from this scene to the Spellman house where Sabrina is complaining about the Unseen Academy and how she has to be there for 3 whole days.
Oh, no!
Yeah, and I do like Ambrose, because she's complaining to Ambrose. And I like Ambrose's response, and his response is basically, yeah, but there are hot people there, so...
I love that response so much because it's just so good. It's just like, well, you know, you could find a hot warlock. He's totally trying to live vicariously through her.
He really is. He's like,
you could get out of the house and meet some really hot, fit warlocks.
Huh?
Yeah, and she's like, no, I'm not. I'm not going there for that. I'm going there to learn how to summon and fight and bind the devil.
You
to
know,
which they don't show Ambrose's response.
They
and
really
they totally shoot have.
They should have. Bold words for a 16-year-old girl. I'm gonna fight and destroy the devil.
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna learn this. I'm gonna learn how to conjure him. I'm gonna learn how to like bind him or something. And then I'm gonna learn to destroy him. And she says this, and that camera does that like really typical, like she's making a bold statement, zooming in on her, and the music gets really dramatic. And I was waiting for that moment when the music cuts out and Ambrose says something hilarious. I want to know what his response to that was. I genuinely do, but we never find out.
I'm just gonna imagine laughing. He just sat over there and laughed for a little bit. But we don't find out what he says. Because instead we cut to the morning where Hilda gives Sabrina an armload of protection charms.
Yes.
And she's like, put these in your pockets. And
in that cute little way of like, you know, like an older person like giving you a like for example, my mum giving me a cross, not a cross, a St. Christopher when I went traveling. Like, here's this will protect you. And I'm like, this might be a little. I don't think I need to carry this around.
Well,
I think I'm probably gonna get bugs if I wear this.
Carry it. It's for protection.
Like, she's bundled with so much stuff.
She really did. And then we find out that because Hilda's like, why doesn't Salem go with you? And Zelda says that only babies and ninnies take their familiar with them. Remember that time you tried to bring your spiders and all the kids made fun of you? And
called you names.
And we find out that Zelda was really, really, really mean to Hilda at the academy. Not really a shock, honestly. Like,
no, not surprised, but it was another one of those, oh, Zelda, you're really an asshole.
Yeah. Like, did you have to be like this, Zelda? Like, could you not for like a minute?
Like, see how well adjusted Hilda is in comparison.
Yeah. And then Hilda's like, oh, well, finish up your breakfast and I'll take you to the academy. And Zelda shuts her down because she's like, you can't go to the academy because you're excommunicated. Mm-hmm. And there's this, I don't know, it feels like a fight, but like a really weird fight because Hilda's like, I can still hug my niece, can't I? And like, give Sabrina a hug. And Zelda's like, okay. Right.
I think it's a case of like, well, I can do something, can't I? You gotta fight me on this. Like, it's the only fight I think she knows that she can win. The funny thing is that she gives like Sabrina the hug, and Sabrina looks really uncomfortable for like 2 or 3 seconds, and then it's just like, okay,
all right, it's a hug, you know.
It's like, I don't get this fight either, but no, it's a hug.
And then we cut to Sabrina walking down some train tracks, and she stops outside of what looks like an abandoned train station.
Yeah, it's either a train station or some sort of like public service building. It reminded me a bit like the building from the Hunger Games. It's just like really square and big and horrible, and just like it's in the middle of nowhere. It has no reason to be here. I think, to be fair, it's probably supposed to look like that. It probably is the point.
Probably, but it's weird and dumb, and I hate it. But there's like,
and then we employ one of the best tropes ever of scary child.
Honestly, I've been waiting to talk about Scary Child for a while because the second he appears on screen, I'm like, there's something wrong with this kid.
Yeah.
Like, don't know what it is yet, but this kid's fucked up.
Yeah.
Because it's this little, like, 11-ish year old boy, and he's got a super bowl cut. Just like, he looks like, fuck, I forgot what.
Damien from The Omen.
Yeah, or Jim Carrey from Dumb and Dumber. Like, just a real bad bowl cut.
Or if we go back, like, oh my god, how old am I? If we let's say we go back, I'll be generous, like 10-ish years, way more than that, but I'm gonna lie about my age. If you make the hair a bit lighter, that's exactly my haircut. Like, genuinely.
Okay, to be fair, I definitely had a bowl cut as a child too, and then when my mom got tired of that, I definitely had a mullet. So
I've never rocked a mullet. I don't feel like I'm probably done enough. But I think it's fair to say everyone at some point has to have attempted to rock the bowl cut.
oh,
Probably because of our parents.
exactly. And like one time I asked my mom why I had a bowl cut and then B a mullet, and she's like, it was just easier to deal with. And I'm like, okay,
Yes.
that's probably true. Children are kind of annoying, and I had super bad ADD as a child, like real bad. But it didn't do any favors for young me.
No, young me did not appreciate this. I mean, to be fair, I was a terrible child. Like, I refused to brush my hair and always went to school like that. And my mum just got really annoyed. So she just like sit down and just got a pair of scissors and cut it round. Like she did.
Whatever, mom. You
bowl,
can't tell me what
but
to
her
do.
her eye was perfectly tuned in to give me like almost the perfect bowl cut. I was like,
So yeah, young creepy boy is like, oh, Sabrina, I'm supposed to show you to Blackwood's office for your schedule. And then we cut inside to as they're walking through, we see this big statue of Baphomet, or I guess Satan is who it's supposed to be.
yeah.
And the creepy boy, whose name is Quentin, is telling her that every room is a perfect pentagram that's connected.
Pentagon.
Yes.
Yeah, pentagon.
Pentagon, not a
Yeah,
pentagram.
because the pentagram is the actual star.
If it was a pentagram, those rooms would be way weirder.
That'd be super weird. You could not tessellate them for no.
But yeah, it's a perfect pentagon connected to the ones around it on all sides, and no one knows how many pentagons there are. Possibly infinite. Who knows? Whoop-de-doo. Doesn't really come up again.
No. And also, if there's an infinite amount of them, like, surely you get lost at some point. Like, at some point, you're gonna get lost.
Valanda, they're witches.
Yeah, but I think you're probably gonna get lost. I would make it my mission just to keep walking and see how far these things go. Like, just walk in a straight line.
Just see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep walking in a straight line and see how far this thing's supposed to go. I mean, on the law of like odds, you're gonna come to a room that's just filled with cheese, and then you're gonna come to another room that's just a jacuzzi. So you can just get in there. Like, at some point you're gonna come across something like that. You're gonna come across like the perfect situation for you.
Or the worst situation in which you go into a room that is a jacuzzi filled with melted cheese.
Oh yeah, I'm not a fan of being the thing you stick in a fondue.
Yeah. So, law of probability, you're gonna come across that at some point.
Okay, see, that's where you have to weigh up your chances. Basically, it's a 50-50 chance. Either I'm about to get in a jacuzzi with like a really fit thing and then like drink my way to oblivion, or I'm gonna step my foot in there, it's gonna turn into cheese, and I'm just gonna die, partly from embarrassment.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna roll those dice?
Yeah, I'd give it a shot.
And we cut to Blackwood's office because, again, like I said, you learn this thing about these pentagons, and it fucking doesn't come up again. It's literally like cut from that scene straight to Blackwood's office where Sabrina's just like standing there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we had some unpleasantness, but it's just because we really wanted you to come to the academy. Here's your schedule." It's the only word I pronounce like this. I don't have a English accent of any sort. So I'm just being pretentious.
Yes.
And that's a weird... Again, and she looks at her schedule and then complains about it. She's like, I didn't come here to learn about herbs. How about demonology and conjuring and binding rituals and stuff? And he's like, master the basics first. And he looks at a pocket watch and he's like, such as choir. Which
That to me, like, until that point, he had, like, I like him because he makes everything sound plausible, exactly the way you would expect, like, Faustus Dealmaker to make it sound. However, it was like, you have to master the basics before we can let you, I don't know, say, conjure a demon. Which, like, I'm on board with that. And it's like, master the basics of singing.
Mhm.
How is that a basic lesson?
Okay. Here's my thought. Singing, because you have to, it helps strengthen your lungs and diaphragm, and you must speak clearly, and you must enunciate when you summon a demon.
Okay, no. I didn't take any singing lessons. I took a lot of drama. At
Can you
college.
summon a demon?
Funny enough, Drew, I'm not dumb enough to try.
So you don't know if choir would help you.
Satan singing is best singing.
You know, it's hard to argue with that logic. But yeah,
Yep.
that my thought when he said that, I was like, okay, well, I guess it's good that the witch school is well-rounded. Like,
Well, the thing is like it really feels like so we go, I think, almost literally from here to the singing lesson.
oh yeah,
right?
no, like it's you start
Yeah.
hearing people sing, and then
Yeah.
Blackwood and Sabrina come into a door in this choir room where the Weird Sisters are and a bunch of other assorted witches and warlocks.
Oh, and then we have a super close up on like one guy's face who's like passingly attractive, wearing I think like a leather jacket or something like that, and you think, oh, he's supposed to be the love interest.
Like,
All right,
oh,
gotcha.
okay, here's this guy.
This scene is here to literally go, let's introduce Lady Blackwood, because it's the dude's wife. And like, oh, he's married? Who would marry that? Apparently her. Fair enough. It's just here to show that Sabrina, the actress, can sing.
Yeah.
And of course she has a very good voice because it's supposed to be Sabrina, you're supposed to be good at all this stuff. And of course the only place that like she fits into this choir is against her arch nemesis, Prue, whatever her name is, Prudence.
Yep.
Of course that's how it is. Everything in this scene just went, of course. Yes.
Yes.
It's so, oh my god. Everything is so much like, yes, of course it's going to be, yes. Okay, Jesus. Why? Now I know why she's supposed to have choir. The basics of, let's continue building this arch nemesis.
Yeah.
Let's show that she can sing.
Exactly. Because, I mean, that's all that happened. Like, she sang,
That's-
and then Lady Blackwood's like, oh, Prudence, you finally have a challenger. Ha ha ha. And then it cuts. Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck was that?
I need to see like the most epic like showdown of like talent competition going on here to make this scene pay off. They
oh
need
my
to have,
god, which
like-
talent show? Hell
Yep.
yes.
we need to, I like the pun. We need to have like a lip sync battle going on here, or we need to have like some sort of karaoke competition going on. We need something going on here to make this scene pay off.
Oh, imagine if witches weren't like stuck up and they really got into like lip sync battles.
Yeah.
And then like they did their own lip sync battles where one person was doing the lip syncing, but everyone else was just doing random nonsense to support it through magic.
Yep.
It would be insane.
Like if they started singing like "Wind Beneath My Wings" or something, like they would literally like the witches around them would give them wings, and then you just start seeing like
Yes.
wind blowing around.
It'd
That
be
that
great.
that kind of shit I want to see.
That's what I want to see. I don't want to see stuck up witches who are stuck 400 years in the past. Fuck off.
All wearing blacks and greys.
Yeah. Bleh. Done.
No, seen that.
So, yeah, it cuts from this really pointless choir song to Sabrina sitting by herself at mealtime,
Yeah.
where this... I'd say mealtime because honestly I don't know what time it is because there are no windows in this fucking school.
Well, yeah, because they're all like surrounded by the infinite.
Exactly. So it's just like, I don't know, it's a time of day. But that passively, as you said, passively attractive guy comes up, and you learn his name is Nicholas Scratch, or Nick Scratch. And when I heard that, I almost rolled my eyes out of my head.
The thing is, I feel like it's a reference to something, or
It
it's
is.
a pun, and
Nick's-
I'm not getting it.
Nick Scratch is a name for the devil.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
And
I
I was
feel like I've learned something now, and now I understand.
I hated everything when I heard it. And it also makes me think that he's got a role to play that we don't find out anywhere in this episode, maybe this season. We probably won't even find out anytime soon, but I don't imagine he's just a normal dude.
Oh, he's probably like a season 2 drop. Like,
Probably.
It's probably gonna be it. Yeah, he's setting up for something else. Like he said his name in such a way that it genuinely makes you feel like, oh, this is which is like it's a pun or reference. Like it's literally the way he said, the way he brought it across. Like there was so much emphasis. They do this, and like so that's the thing they're doing is like everyone has a particular name for a definite reason, and they always stop and slow down just enough for you to catch every single syllable of their name. Yeah,
if naming was a thing in this show, everybody in the show would be fucked. Like if it was like, oh, I know I have your name and I can pronounce it perfectly, like.
Yeah.
Oh,
unfortunately, having the true name, unfortunately, is not the thing.
Doesn't seem to be a thing in this.
No. Yeah.
But they talk about the fact that Nick Scratch is reading Edward's journals because they're in the library, and he's studying conjuring. And Edward was an amazing conjurer. You know, just like super tops. And even though he was like real crazy and dangerous and had a lot of really dumb ideas, real good at conjuring stuff, though.
Yeah, super good at it. So super good. But his ideas are ahead of his time, which you always say about someone who's, died, I guess. It's like, ideas are ahead of his time, and they're all in the restricted section of the library.
And you can't take notes when you read them. You have to memorize them, and you can't look at them for more than 10 seconds. Like, okay, I get it. I get it.
Bad. Yeah, we get this. Like, I'm just waiting for I really hope that if we ever see the inside of this library, there is like a Mrs. Pritch reference in here, like Harry Potter style of like you cannot get in the restricted part of this set. This is no.
Yes, please. I need that.
I need to see this. I need in my head any sort of like magical library is guarded by that librarian. It just is. Yeah, that's just me.
And then the end of the scene basically is when the weird sisters come up and they start to bother Sabrina, and Nick's just like, yeah, I'll walk you to the next class, and it cuts out because that's the end of that scene. Actually, no, the last part of the scene is Sabrina turns her head and looks over her shoulders and is like, goodbye, ladies. And it's like the most sassy I've ever seen her. And it's like, oh, okay, Sabrina, like,
I wish they'd given her a line with more teeth in it.
Right? It's so
like she did. Yeah, it's like the sassiest we've seen her, the most like bitchy we've ever seen her be. Because like they're like, oh, you're doing this, and then she's like, fine, I'm gonna walk her over the hot boy, and she delivers a line with real sass, but they don't give any like meat to the line at all.
No.
It literally is see you later, ladies. It's like no, give her a witty retort. But then if she had a witty retort, then she wouldn't be goody two shoes Sabrina. So.
Exactly, she's too goody two shoes.
Yeah.
So we cut from that and we cut to Susie's house where Roz and Susie are watching another old movie. Honestly,
I thought I recognized what it was, and then when we pan away to see like the wide view of the TV, I was clearly very, very wrong.
Yeah, all I know is it apparently is shot in Salt Lake City, and they say that in the scene. I have no fucking clue to back that up.
Fair enough. We'll go on guessing and gumption.
So they're sitting there and talking, and then this, honestly, it's the creepiest bell sound ever echoes through the house.
Yeah,
it's like haunting because it doesn't sound like someone just ringing a bell. It sounds like the kind of bell you'd hear if you were out near like the ocean or something, and there was a boat bell, but it was also really foggy out. So it's like kind of muffled.
It reminded me it really did remind me of like the kind of Victorian styly houses where that like you have the sick bell. Mm-hmm. It really does sound like one of those. It's super weird and super creepy, and rightly so. She gets pulled up on it like, who the fuck is in the house?
Yeah,
and
like,
she's like,
what the fuck?
It's my crazy uncle. Have you met my crazy uncle? And the other chick's like, what? He's crazy? And she's like, yep.
He's super crazy. He rings the bell when he needs something, which I have a comment about this because they get up from the couch. They go upstairs. They open the door to Susie's sick uncle's room because he's rung the bell and needs something. Mm-hmm. Look at him. Immediately shut the door and run away.
Yeah. What are they seeing? This is what makes. I mean, to be fair, there are many things that if I opened a dude's bedroom door and I saw, I would be immediately running. This being Sabrina and a a family-ish, friendly-ish show. I assume it's not the worst thing that I'm thinking, but like it would have been nice to kind of maybe get a glimpse of what was going here. But it pays off later on, so it's
It
proper old school horror style of like let's
it
show you their
does.
reaction and close the door because we can't
Yes.
afford the effects twice.
But that's the other thing is like these kids are, I mean, they are for the most part very, very like conscious and they want to help people. And this
Yeah.
sick person is asking for help, and they're just like, "Nah, peace." And it's
Nah,
like,
peace out, bro.
oh, that's fucked up. But we cut back downstairs, and it turns out that Uncle Jesse went crazy in the mines that Harvey's family owns because he saw a monster.
Oh boy. Bum bum bum.
And Susie is like, if I lock the door to his room, will you stay for the weekend because I'm scared?
And Ross is like, can't really say no now, can I?
I've been locked into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say though, I know that like I mean they're like 16 years old now. But if I was her father, knowing what his brother was like, I wouldn't leave my 16-year-old girl alone at home. So I wouldn't leave any of my children, regardless, at home alone. I don't care if they're 16, 8, or like 28. No, this person is clearly office rocker. No, I would not let them look after them without any other sort of help.
I would sooner send my 16-year-old daughter to the farming expo than
Yes.
leave her alone with my crazy brother.
With some very specific instructions and like the credit card of like, okay, here's a credit card, it has money on it, go buy a tractor.
I need this kind of tractor. It can be delivered. Just
Yes.
I cannot leave you alone with my crazy brother.
Yes, because knowing what we know about him when we get further on in the episode, no, this
Yeah.
would no, never. Okay.
Uh, but
Bad parenting.
super bad. And so from there we go to back to Sabrina, who's sleeping in her bed in one of these stupid fucking rooms. And she's like kind of tossing and turning, and there's whispers. And she, undead man, take our only cow and head to the market. Wait a minute. And it turns into a different show. uh, but she hears these like voices and kind of rolls over and wakes up, and Quentin is sitting there, and he's like, he tells her, "Don't show any fear or they'll kill you on the spot." And she, half asleep, is like, whatever, and like falls back asleep. And then like a second later, because I've had that happen where you're like kind of awake and someone says something to you, okay, and you're like, wait, what? Where like it finally gets through your head what the fuck you just heard. That happens when she wakes up and she's in some sort of weird cell, which turns out to be the witch's cell.
Super weird because the weird sisters are there and they say you have to go through this. It's called the harrowing. You'll see things and it will drive you mad. And it's what the witches who were hung here back in today had to go through. And I was thinking, why would they put the witches who'd been through this shit in this cell? Why is this cell here? It's in the academy. I don't understand.
Yeah, not really. The rules kind of fall apart right there, where it's like, you have to do this thing. It's super creepy and scary. And they lock her in, and she is like kind of walking around like upset and kind of scared. And then we see something grab her leg, and she screams. And Salem, it like shows Salem. Here's the scream. He hops off the bed. Is like, time to go be a cat.
Yep, time to go do what I'm supposed to do. So yeah, and then we see, I believe it cuts straight to the next morning, right?
It does, and she's like crouched on the ground, hugging herself, and as the sisters come in.
Yep, and they're like, it's the sound of misery and pain. It's beautiful. It smells like glory. And then she's like, no, Salem was here, so fuck it all. I'm fine.
She's like, yeah, this is my familiar. He's great. He's a cat. In goblin form, he can fit through any crack.
Yeah.
So anyway, good morning, and then she walks off, where she goes to call Harvey and talk to him. That thing of like she's distressed and she can't talk about what's going on, but she wants to hear Harvey's voice because that would make her feel better.
Yeah, it's the I'm gonna go for what makes me feel better first.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she does. It's the teenager in love thing. It's right there. Horrible, cynical old lady that I've become. I would call people who would stop that shit. Or I'd seriously like mess up their lives. I mean, I would call the appropriate authorities.
Well, who are the appropriate authorities when you're a witch and everyone hates you?
God. Blatantly.
Good luck, okay? That's all I gotta say. But yeah, she calls Harvey and they have a little chat, and then she's coming out of the shower in her like bathrobe, and so she's like, "Where are my cat and my pajamas?" And she's yelling at the Weird Sisters. This scene doesn't have really anything going on, so I'm gonna kind of breeze past this one. She gets into a fight with Prudence. That is just a push fight.
Yep.
Blackwood shows up and he's like, "Get dressed, come to my office right now." Where it cuts to very quickly, and we find out that familiars are not allowed at the school. So Salem has to go home with her aunt, and Zelda's there. And he tells Zelda, "Oh, Sabrina's been complaining and causing so much trouble." And when I like that when Zelda learns what Sabrina's complaining about, she's like, "Well, yeah, Blackwood, you have her learning about herbs. She's really smart. Fuck off."
It's like, I believe that she's been growing up in this world. She knows about herbs. I mean, Aunt Hilda. I mean, come on. She knows Latin. I mean, come on, Aunt Zelda. She knows all the stuff that they're putting her through. And choir, clearly she can sing. Like, all the things that they put on her list, she's like, clearly, like, she's done this. You know, and he makes a fair point. I can't let someone who isn't, like, can't prove themselves into conjuring class because it's effing dangerous.
Yeah, you're summoning demons. Like, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, that's like one of those things where you say, here's a line in the sand. Don't read aloud from the book because it's a bad idea. So she should be, you know, she needs to prove herself. And so Aunt Z says, we'll test her then. And he's just like, okay, here's like one of those, I don't know how to describe it. It looks like I don't know, it's a little like block thing, like exactly the shape that this is. Like you can get them and they're kind of like brightly colored and like white bubbles on the end of each of the points and they vibrate and shake. I don't know what the point of them were. I don't know what they do, but I've seen them.
I know what you're talking about, but I have no idea what the point of them are.
Exactly. I don't know what they are. I don't know what the point is, but that's basically what this looks like, except it's blue.
Mm-hmm. And we find out it's called an Akron configuration, and it's a puzzle.
Yeah.
And if Sabrina can solve it.
And her dad made it.
Oh, yeah, we find that out in a minute, and it's just like, that little point, I'll get further into it later, but like that's another trope that I was just like, oh my god, please stop.
God.
Yeah, he gives her this thing, and he's like, if you can solve it, I'll let you be into conjuring classes. It's great. Anyway, Sabrina, get the fuck out of here. I need to talk to your aunt. Yeah. Because as soon as she leaves, Blackwood's like, hey, yeah, so my wife is pregnant. I want you to midwife her through her pregnancy because you've never lost a baby, and Constance, who is Lady Blackwood, has miscarried twice.
So that's like the world's most uncomfortable conversation.
It really is.
I'm not saying that writing was bad. I'm not saying it's poorly acted, but it feels uncomfortable in the way that it's supposed to feel uncomfortable. Of like, oh, you're asking me to help birth your child.
Ooh, I don't do that anymore.
I feel uncomfortable saying yes, but you've also got me over a barrel, so I'm gonna go with yes.
I guess.
So good. And then we go outside,
which is where we actually find about it being her dad. Yeah.
And then she's like, well, if I look at my dad's journals, if my dad made it, then maybe I can figure out how to open the puzzle box. And the dude's like, you can't go in the library. And she's like, get me in the library. And he's like, no, I can't get you in the library. We'll get expelled or worse. Yeah. That's and there's like more kind of half-hearted flirting going on there.
And we find out that Nick at one point was involved with all three of the Weird Sisters at once.
Yeah.
To which Sabrina's just
because
like,
they have mind control.
Yeah. And Sabrina's like, okay, so what happened? He's like, oh yeah, they have mind control, so I wasn't sure if it was like real or not, so I wasn't gonna be around for that.
which is fair.
Totally fair.
Utterly fair. Like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
I'm good with polyamory. I'm good with all that shit. I'm good with weird sexual arrangements. Okay, whatever floats your boat and whatever makes you happy and gets you through life in a happy way. That was a little weird. Like mind control, that's where I draw the line. That's the slightly weird line.
Which props to Sabrina. She didn't bat an eye that he was dating all three at once. She was just like, all three at once? What happened? Like that was that. Like that was it.
Yeah. Very smoothly dealt with. And yeah, that's basically that kind of scene.
Yeah, that was it. And it jumps to Roz and Susie and Harvey, where Susie's not there. Roz tells Harvey about Susie's crazy uncle and how he saw something in the mine and went crazy, and Harvey's like, oh my.
I should probably talk to this guy because let's share crazy experiences, which, you know, they're beginning to solve a mystery all of their own without Sabrina. Thank fuck. But of course, it being Sabrina, I'm going to lay beds that it's probably her that has to solve this.
Oh my god, there are so many notes for this episode. Yeah, Harvey makes a face, clearly because he saw a monster. And then we go to Ambrose. Fucking Christ. So Ambrose answers a phone, and it's Luke. And then he goes and talks to Aunt Hilda, and he's like, hey, I want to astral project to a coffee shop because Luke asked me out, and I really like Luke. And she's like, no, there are all sorts of bad things, like psychopomps, and they'll take you to hell, or tell on you, and kill you either way. Plus, here's Zelda. She will also hate it and probably kill you.
There are three very big positive points which she came out with. Like, the weird creatures that nobody's ever heard of, which you assume is terrible. The abyss creature pulling him, which is, you know, a concern for him, being that he's, you know, being held away from this thing. And Auntie, I love how the fact she's the last and biggest big issue.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's also funny because as soon as she's mentioned, she shows up and she's like, my ears were burning.
Yes.
And she brags about being invited to the high priest's house for dinner, and then shits on her sister in the same breath.
Because, you know, it's Auntie. It's what she does.
Mm-hmm.
Her go-to is let's shit on the family because she's very much that way.
Yeah.
And then she basically breezes out again, and instantly you feel that, like, you're a fucking badass, Aunt Hilda. Fucking yeah. She's like, we're going to need this, this, and this. Let's do it.
Let's do it. We're going to do it in the embalming room. It's going to be great. And then back at the academy, Prudence goes into Blackwell's office where she has Wardwell's Raven in a cage, and she's like, hey, this thing was watching us in the girls' shower, and it's obviously familiar. And he's like, oh, just leave it here. I'll take care of it. And then he's like, hey, Wardwell, stop being a creep. Take your fucking bird and get the fuck out.
And she's like, no, I need to keep an eye on Sabrina. And he's like, why don't you just go torment mortals? And she gets that look of like, oh yeah, it's a good idea.
I can do that.
That is, like, the conversation is way more convoluted with much more, like, really interesting nuances and the way they phrase things. But that's basically the gist of it, of, like, get out of my school, go torment the mortals. That's
Yes.
what you're supposed to be doing. Go and do it. And he has that look of, like, well, okay. And then you're like, oh no, there's going to be trouble.
Yep. And there is immediately, because we jump back to the Spellman house, where Ambrose and Hilda are setting up their astral projection thing. And she's like, hey, listen, if a psychopomp shows up, you get the fuck out, you get 20 minutes, and then we'll be back. And he's like, okay, fine. Quick side complaint. The psychopomps, the way they talked about it earlier, minutes ago, was that if you spend enough time in the astral plane, the psychopomps will show up. They show up fucking instantly.
Yeah, but it is also, like, Greendale, where, like, there's a fuck ton of really weird magical bullshit stuff going on.
Fair.
So, yeah, and to be fair, when they do turn up, and it's just like a sparrow, and then you're like, oh no, it's a sparrow. I mean, fair. Like, oh no, it's a sparrow. And then a bunch of them turn up. I get such, like, the weird kind of like, oh, it's like the birds, but with sparrows.
Just with
I did not feel threatened by them at all. If we'd seen one of them turn into something weird and creepy and go for him, then I might associate with creep and terror. We saw nothing of the sort. No. It was just a bunch of sparrows.
Just a bunch of sparrows hanging out.
It's just like, we're hanging out, we're chill. Like, in the birds, I think they use crows or ravens. Now that is a terrifying sound. That's a terrifying look, but sparrows. No.
Not so much. So yeah, Luke shows up, and like the second Luke shows up, psychopomps start showing up.
Coincidence? I think not.
And then a bunch of intercut things here where that happens, and then back at the house, the doorbell rings, and Aunt Hilda answers the door, and it's Wardwell, and she's like freaking out because she's got Ambrose downstairs, astral projecting, and she's like, I gotta go guard his body. Go sit in this room, and I'll be back in a minute. And like runs off,
leaving Wardwell, the mistress of misbehaving, basically, alone in their house. I mean, to be fair, Hilda probably doesn't know that she's some weird, horrible demon thing. Granted. And then, like, I really have to note Wardwell's wardrobe at this point. It is the shiniest jacket in the world.
It's like a knee-length, shiny leather trench coat.
Yeah, it's the shiniest thing. Is if someone's gone like, let's coat this one some sort of glass, and yeah, this will look cool, and it's just so shiny. It's so unbelievably shiny.
It really is.
Yeah.
But yeah, she starts wandering the house and gathering hair and nail clippings and bits of fabric. Kind of like just it's intercut more, but honestly, it doesn't matter. Like, because
the only real thing of note is that she licks her finger, I think it is, and like rubs a circle on a mirror.
Yep, that's about the only thing of note. Back downstairs, or back in the coffee shop, they start talking, and Luke's like, "Hey, I don't want to talk about my dead boyfriend. I want to talk about you. So what's the craziest thing you've ever done?" And Ambrose is like, "Oh, I was arrested for trying to blow up the Vatican." And I guess this is where we find out why Ambrose is housebound, because he tried to blow up the Vatican.
Yeah, but from what we know of, that's just super weird though. Like, I don't know if I believe that. I mean, I probably believe it probably to be a thing, but I don't believe it of Ambrose, if that makes sense, because everything he's come up with and said to Sabrina so far has been like, he's very much like her, but with a much more liberal side.
Definitely seems very out of his wheelhouse.
Yeah, very much out of character. And I need to know. I'm hoping it's real, and I need to know why he did this. I need to know more details. I don't want it to just be a throwaway line of that and explains why he's running away from like the abyss thing or whatever it is. Like, I need to know a lot more about this.
Oh, definitely. And then Ambrose gets worried and is like, I have to go, because he sees at this point there's like 20 psychopomps hanging around. And he's like, I gotta go. And Luke tries to follow him, but he vanishes. Which happens, I think, like, technically after the scene of Zelda coming home, where she finds Wardwell coming downstairs. And she finds out that Hilda left her alone upstairs, and she's pissed. So she's like, hey, Wardwell, get the fuck out of my house.
Yep. I love it because she does it without saying anything too. She's like, oh, you're doing this, and then she steps back and clearly indicates the door with a bearish wave of the arm. Like, it vaguely lifts up. And Wardwell gets the hints and leaves. I mean, clearly she's done her mischief already, but you can see the real power in there, and it's definitely Auntie.
Yeah. And then Auntie goes downstairs and yells at Hilda and Ambrose about the stupid bullshit they just pulled, because Ambrose is housebound, and that includes his spirit. And Hilda, you left someone upstairs, which is entirely unprofessional. That's my favorite part. She's like, it's very unprofessional.
I think at this point she's like, I don't know how to tell you off. It's unprofessional. We need to make a living here, okay?
What are you doing?
It is a true ticking off of a parent to a child doing something dumb while they're
really
away.
Is.
And at the same time, they're acting like children with the glances of like, was it good? It's okay. that little interplay, that little bit between them, it's just like, that's hilarious. I love it.
That actually was. I like that. I saw it the second time when I went to go make notes. I actually noticed that. And then back at school, Sabrina is surrounded by the Weird Sisters, and they're gonna harrow her again. And
of course.
She's like, but it happened last night. And they're like, oh, that was just the beginning. There's more to come.
Of course.
And she says she'll scream, and the Weird Sister's like, yeah, but then no one's gonna help you, so it's just a bad idea. I'm pretty sure the other dog. Hold on.
We can definitely, I definitely hear that. There you go.
Okay. Okay.
I drew the people are coming.
They're coming. So they're like, you have to come with us. So they walk her along the path that the Greendale 13 originally walked, and they take her to the hanging tree where they tell her to stand and face the tree until morning, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And she's like, what happens if I look behind? Nobody answers her. And then we get like this strange assortment of voices of like Harvey screaming and crying and her parents taunting her / trying to tempt her to turn around. And there's so much sound and weird voices and cracking of bones and screaming and shrills and stuff. And there's lots of crying and angst and sadness. It's like, okay, she's either going to turn around at the parent thing or she's going to tough it out till morning.
Mhm.
And she toughs it out till morning.
Yep. It immediately cuts to morning where she is clearly barely hanging on, and Quentin shows up and is like, oh, you can turn around now. You can go back to the school. It's morning. You're safe. And Sabrina, being Sabrina, is like, Quentin, you shouldn't be out here. It's super dangerous, and you are a tiny child. Which, also on that note, Quentin is at the school for witches, and he's younger than you. He's been there longer than you. I feel like he probably knows more than you.
I think anytime there is a creepy child, assume they know more about creepy magic than you.
Yeah, but Sabrina's just like, hey, Quentin, don't come out into the woods. It's scary. And he's like, oh, nothing can hurt me anymore. Where we cut to him leading her to a graveyard full of... it's like overgrown, but it's full of gravestones that have children's names on them.
Yeah, kids who've died from the harrowing in various stages. And then she's like, can I meet everyone else? And then we meet all the other children who are buried here and have died because of the harrowing. And we're like, oh, it's, yes, there's, I personally reckon there's 13. I didn't count, but that's my guess.
Probably.
That's my guess. There's a fair amount of these children here. And she's like, oh no, this is super bad. And then we're like, oh, Quentin's dead. I knew it all along.
That's why he's so creepy and weird.
Fucking nailed it. But dude, that's harsh. And why is a kid that young doing the harrowing? What?
Why is he at the school? Aren't you supposed to be 16 when you sign your name into the Dark Bible or whatever?
Well, that's like I believe that some of them have to have been there for longer.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Like a much younger age. Well, clearly, because there's a kid here who like it's like he's like 7 or 8 or whatever it is.
He's super young, yeah.
Gone through the harrowing. What kind of asshole puts a kid that young through the harrowing? And I think that's literally the entire point of this. Like, it's witch on witch violence. Mm-hmm. Don't do this shit. It's bad. Okay.
I like because we cut to the Spellman house where it's the usual tableau of the family eating, but Sabrina's not there. So Zelda's smoking her cigarette and reading a newspaper. Which, by the way, I don't know if you noticed this, but every newspaper she's reading is in a different language.
It is,
and from a different place.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
She's never reading, like, the Greendale newspaper. It's like she's reading newspapers from other locations and in other languages.
What do you reckon she reads, like, in them? Like, what's the most interesting thing you think she reads?
I have to imagine stuff about mortal deaths, maybe? Like...
Obituaries.
Yeah, just the obituary page. Like...
That's it. That's the only thing she reads. Like, I could have snagged that client.
I don't know what she... Because, yeah, I don't know what she's reading about. But Sabrina calls, and Hilda jumps up and goes to answer the phone. And she's like, oh, it's Sabrina. And the other two come running, which I like, because she's like, oh, how are you, my little possum? And, like, Zelda grabs the phone out of her hand.
And like, she's immediately like, what did you do?
What did you do? And Sabrina's like, hey, yeah, no, kids are dying here, like, in the harrowing, and it's
not cool.
It's not cool, and also... the Weird Sisters are harrowing me, and Zelda's like, we'll be right there.
Yeah, because clearly at this point, like, oh, Zelda knows way more. Oh, okay, yeah, we figure away.
But
yeah.
I also love the next scene because Zelda shows up, and it's literally just her in the room with Blackwood, and she is raining down on Blackwood, basically, like, fuck you, you've got to stop this, what if it was your kid? Like all like...
But Blackwood points out, like, you participated in a fair few of these yourself, and she's like, I never killed anyone. Like, come on, dude.
And he's like, yeah, but you killed your sister a lot, so. And
he has got her on that point.
He has, because he's like, who, by the way, is violating her excommunication by being here. And Zelda's like, yeah, I feel those circumstances warrant it, though, so...
I like this, like, we always see this, like, really, like, I don't know, like, dark, uncaring side of her.
Popo again.
Oh, dear.
Actually, it's a fire truck, but...
Oh, boy. That's a lot of them, dude. You're not smelling smoke, are you?
That's an ambulance. Sorry.
Okay. I can't tell the difference because your, like, sirens are way different than ours. Okay, it's probably gone. Right. I like how, because we always see her as, like, really cold and uncaring, especially the way she treats her sister.
Mm-hmm.
And then occasionally we get these moments of, like, no, fuck you, VM. It's family. It's family over everything. I like how she has that really heavy contrast, but you're never really sure when it's going to kick in.
Yeah, you don't know when Zelda's going to, like, just come out swinging for her family.
Yeah, because you know that when she does, oh boy.
Yeah, which I like how it cuts outside and the door shuts and Hilda and Sabrina stand up and Zelda comes up and she's like, he said he'll look into it. And Sabrina's like, but you don't believe him, right? And she's like, no, show me the children.
like, fuck no, let's deal with this.
Let's deal with this. So Sabrina leads them into the woods and she, like, gets Quentin to come out and then all the other kids come out. And they kind of have this really short conversation of, well, what are we going to do with a bunch of dead kids? We can't, like, take them anywhere. We can't really do anything with them.
And they don't want to leave. So Aunt Hilda's just like, I went through this. I know what you want. You want cold-blooded revenge.
And all...
It was so good.
And she's like, all nice kids just need permission, right? And Quentin nods and she's like, all right. And then it's like this weird wide shot scene of Sabrina and Zelda standing behind and Hilda's like crouched among these kids and she's like, listen to me and you're going to feel way better. Because she's like telling them like, yeah, you can totally exact your revenge.
She's like, you're dead and loving it. Do it.
Have fun.
So good.
And then we jump to Susie's house where Harvey confronts Susie about her uncle. And he's like, why didn't you tell me? And she's like, he was working in the mine your family owns. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's only a certain amount complaining to the man you're going to do.
Yeah. And she's like, then Harvey admits that he saw something in the mines and he really wants to talk to Jesse. And more or less like bum rushes his way upstairs.
Yeah, bad idea.
Yeah, because they get in the room and then, as you can imagine, Jesse freaks the fuck out and attacks Harvey.
Yeah, and I like how they set this scene though, because they do it really well. They just like see this like shape under a duvet in the bed, and he basically walks over and does the like, oh, if you can't communicate, ring the bell. But the thing is, like, the subtitles say heavy breathing, but it totally sounds like the dude has a cold. Like, like you get that point where you're like, it's really got like a bad chest infection. I'm like, maybe the guy just needs some antibiotics.
Maybe take him to the actual hospital.
Yeah, like this dude needs a doctor. Take him there. And then when like Harvey gets close enough of like, you know, checking the guy, like maybe he's going, oh, maybe dude just needs some penicillin. Like kind of like goes over to him and is like, ring the bell if you can't answer properly. And then we find out why paracetamol would probably not have done the job, because we see this fucking nightmare vision of a dude just like jumping out at Harvey. Like his skin's all blotchy and red, maybe or burns or something. His eyes like I think maybe rolled a different color in the back of his head. It's super gross and super weird, and it was really so well set up. I'm like, oh, that was unpleasant. I don't like that. And they had this like mini fight thing, where basically like Uncle Jesse's like pinning Harvey down, and God bless Susie, she just picks up something big and heavy and whacks her uncle in the back of the head.
Yeah, I did like that because Susie's just like, not gonna deal with this crack.
Yep.
And we cut away for a minute to Hilda and Zelda getting ready for bed. And Zelda actually apologizes to Hilda for her behavior at the academy and how she's mistreated Hilda. And she starts to walk out of the room, and Hilda's like, aren't you going to bed? And she's like, no, I figured I'd stay up and read. And I really like this moment because Hilda's like, oh, should I put on the kettle? And Zelda nods. And they both like go downstairs to wait to see if their niece survives the last night of the harrowing.
Yeah, it's a real nice reconciliation thing, and it really does show them as like a good dynamic of sisters, and that it's really nice to see because it shows there's some hope for Zelda. Um, who up to this point is definitely supposed to be portrayed as very unsympathetic and cold and businesslike, and like it's all about honor. Like just having this genuine moment of like sisterly affection and apologies, like it's really nice to see. And those two are so good; they have such good chemistry.
Yeah, I actually like. I like the scenes where you see Zelda as like, where she comes out as being very. She is very family oriented. She does have this like she has feelings for her family. She's not just like cold and calculating. You don't see those glimpses often, but like they really shine when they happen because you don't see them very often.
Yeah, exactly.
And they stand out so well.
This is definitely a bold, shining moment. It's the same when Hilda stands up for something. Like, she's always happy just to go with the flow and do a thing. But when she steps up and goes, oh no, let's do a thing, she always does it in like a really nice, friendly, like you say, hedge which way. Like she did with the kids. Like, that's really cool to see because they don't overplay those moments. They are solid gold.
Because it makes sense because their character traits are this type of thing, and people don't generally deviate from like their norm too often, and when they do, it's for a big reason.
Yeah,
you have to have a reason to like change your patterns for any moment.
Yeah, and this is where we have something called character building. It's a 3D character, it's not a 2D trope.
Exactly.
Which these things can, as we saw in the previous CSI episode, you can definitely have those, and it's super bad. I'm glad they built the two marks up. They were important characters.
Oh, definitely. I like the way what they've done with them. So yeah, we go and see Sabrina, who's waiting up for Prudence and the Weird Sisters, and she tries to talk them down. She's like, listen, it's witch on witch violence and it's fucked up, and why don't you just leave me alone? And Prudence is like, no, you're gonna die. So they put a noose around her neck and march her back to the hanging tree. And they ask her...
have so many problems with this scene.
Would you like to dive into them? Because we're already going long.
Alright, step one. We basically see a wide shot of them walking Sabrina with her hands tied and a noose around her neck. Why would you put yourself in that position? Why would you be like, okay, put a noose around my neck and we'll see what happens? At this point, you go, no, I don't care if it's a tradition. I don't give a fuck. No one's putting a noose around my neck. Fuck off. Like, no, there's a big no on that. Like, why would you put yourself in that position? Yes, we know they have a plan to deal with this harrowing situation, but I don't like my odds. I do not want to get strangled. Why would you do this to yourself? Like, she could stay back at this point and go, no, she's not doing it. It's so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I feel better.
Okay, so yeah, Prudence is like, no, you're definitely gonna die. And then Sabrina tries to talk her down one last time, and Prudence is like, no, I still suck and you're gonna die. So she starts to hang Sabrina when we get the classic light as a feather, stiff as a board chant, and all the ghost kids show up and hang the Weird Sisters by the neck.
Yeah, so we basically see the dropping of like the tension on the rope on Sabrina's neck, and we see all the Weird Sisters get strung up by an invisible rope, like coughing and choking, and the kids are just like doing this so over cliched chant. And why, guys? Come on, something Latin. It wouldn't have been that different.
You could have even chanted light as feather, stiff as a board in Latin, and it would have been better.
They could have put it in. Yeah, they could have put it into Google Translate. That would have made an intern like busy for like 30 seconds.
Actually, doing it in any other language would have been better. Just for like the group of people who don't speak that language, being okay.
Put it in something like really boring. I mean, put it in nerd speak. I don't care. Anything. Yes. So we have this thing, and it's a Sabrina basically steps up and says, "Stop doing this shit. These kids are going to keep doing it to you if you do this ever again." And eventually, the kids let Prudence and the Weird Sisters down, and they're coughing and spluttering. And Sabrina walks over and basically helps Prudence to her feet. She offers the hand and Prudence takes it. I'm like, bridges are being built. Oh no, it's just a way for Sabrina to assert her authority and basically say, if you ever say anything bad about my parents again, I'm going to kill you.
Which her threat feels a little hollow, but I can't complain too much because Sabrina's a goody two shoes and probably has never threatened a person in her life.
Yeah, it is my first threaten from a cracker.
So she does her best. And then we jump back to Susie's place, where Roz, Susie, and Harvey are like, we should check on Uncle Jesse. Let's make sure he's not dead. And they go upstairs, and you find out that they have tied Uncle Jesse to the bed with a bunch of socks. You know, probably not a bad idea. And that's the entire scene, so...
Yep, that's the entire scene, but props for not leaving the mad guy to wander around freely inside the bedroom. I don't doubt he'd probably break free of the sock ropes that they have tied around his wrists to the bedpost.
Sock ropes are, like, impossible to break. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about.
No, socks go missing all the time. They're just like one gonna
go. Yeah, so that's the end of that scene. And then it's the next day, and Sabrina's by the big Satan statue, where Quentin is there. And she's like, oh, so what are you going to do now? And Quentin's like, oh, I'll make sure there are no more harrowings, and, you know, keep an eye on the school. We'll guard people. And she's like, oh, that's great. And I also want to just say, I was typing my notes on my phone, and here's a great autocorrect. Sabrina meets Quentin, and he says, hell, make sure no Korea harrowings will happen.
Wonderful.
Thanks, phone. Thanks.
These are good notes.
And then Nick shows up, and he's like, who are you talking to? And Sabrina's like, oh, it doesn't matter. And he gives her one of her dad's journals that he stole out of the library. And he's like, I couldn't take you to the library, but I could definitely steal one of their most prized possessions.
Yeah, like, you know, the witch in charge. Like, she's never going to notice the librarian's never going to notice that, like, dangerous text from the restricted section is going to be missing.
Mm-hmm. Also, another note that I have, it turns out to be the exact volume she needs, and that's also stupid. I hate it.
Yep.
Whatever.
It's plot book heavy. Except it's a really small black book.
Yeah. And then we cut to Prudence going to see Blackwood because he called for her.
Mm-hmm.
And he's mad at her because she didn't kill Sabrina, but that's weird because the Dark Lord specifically wants Sabrina. And then he's like, the Dark Lord wants her to come to the school, but no one said she couldn't be suffering while she's here. But she was straight up gonna hang Sabrina. That's not suffering, that's murder.
Yeah, that's straight up number one murder. I don't know. Maybe his plan was that, like, she was supposed to get really scared and tormented and, like, you know, basically pass the initiation or something. And then the Weird Sisters, you know, because they've been proven to go, you know, off track and improvise whenever they want. Because it's fun for them. I don't know. Maybe killing her was an improv. I'm not really sure. Maybe the fact that, you know, there's now dead ghost children, like, protecting the school from future harrowings that they fucked up royally. I don't know.
I don't know. The scene feels way too back and forth on.
Yeah.
Did he want her to kill her? Did he want her to stop? Like, it feels messy, honestly. But that's the entirety of the scene. He basically just yells at her. Then we cut to Wardwell, who's making dolls out of all the stuff she stole.
Of course.
And then she decides to look through the mirror. So she does the sucks on her finger and makes a circle. And she sees Sabrina sitting on her bed, talking to Harvey on the phone. Which I like this because the camera goes through the mirror. And Sabrina's like, oh, Harvey, I love you, blah, blah, blah. And it cuts back to Wardwell. And she's like, and that's all I want to see of that.
No more teenage lengths for me, thank you. And closes the portal.
This is gross.
and again, we have another one of these, let's dismiss Harvey. He's basically like, I need to talk to you about something face to face. Can we see you today? And she's like, I want to play with my box. Not a euphemism. And so the answer is no. Let's go for a walk tomorrow. And yeah, again, we dismiss him, and he clearly wants to talk about the fact that Uncle Jesse, insane person, is probably possessed.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but phrasing, Valanda.
I know. As soon as I said it, I was like, no, I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna call it out myself, and it's gonna be fine.
Oh God, I wish I had a hotkey that brought up that fucking Archer phrasing gif on the fucking Twitch. We could use that one a lot.
How is this bad? How is this bad? This is perfect. I didn't mean to make it, but you know, phrasing.
I need that gif to pop up, and I need a hotkey for it because we could use it constantly.
Oh, I can show you how to make something do that.
We would always use it. Be like, no.
No, phrasing.
Just
but you have to make it so it makes a sound as well, because
definitely.
Because we need people who can who are listening to the audio version of this.
Mm-hmm. It'll just be me going, phrasing! But there'll be a little gif. It'll be great. But, anyway. So they hang up after some I love yous and Harvey being dismissed because Sabrina, while she loves Harvey, is also just like, being a witch is way more important to me. Sorry, I actually, even though I'm fighting to stay with you, my mortal boyfriend, I kind of don't seem to give too much of a fuck about you.
I don't know. You very much like, you sometimes hear that you sometimes have that phrasing when people like are in that breakup of like, it's not, you're not in love with me, you're in love with the idea of me. And I think she's definitely portraying this right now. She likes the idea of a boyfriend when it's convenient to her.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
So yeah, she looks at her dad's journal and flips through it, and within literally, it's like 15 seconds, she solves this puzzle that people have been working on for 30 fucking years since her dad made it. No one's figured it out. And that also is a trope that I hate. Like, fuck off. I hate it so much. Anyway, so she solves the puzzle and it pops open, and there was some red sand inside of it. And the lights flash, and then we see a weird foot appear underneath the door, and then another one, and then the door blows open, and there's a demon.
Yeah, it's a creepy old lady with like the crazy. It looks like a crazy old lady. That typical like she has a gazillion cats. Like her hair is all messy, and like she's wearing like a I don't know, like some sort of like night dress, like one of those really old style ones that go down to the ground. It's dirty and it's straggly. It's like, could she not like? I mean, at some point this has to be a nice dress. Like, we can have a demon that looks okay. We need a demon that looks freaking cool, like Wardwell. Like, why can we have that something there?
Yeah, no, we just have this dumb one.
But I have to say, it does look kind of like freaky. Like that few like seconds you get, I'm like, yeah, that's uncomfortable. I need to know what's happening here.
It does. Yeah, Sabrina screams and it cuts. But I also want to say, this is a slight. We're jumping ahead just a little bit. I want to say that the demon looks really cool here because she's like shadowed and you get a real quick glance of her. And the next episode, that immediately goes away because she's just wandering around in full view, and it's like,
bright lights.
You don't look as good. Please stop.
Yeah, this is the situation where I'd rather keep the lights off.
Which is weird because every building in this fucking town is pitch black 9/10 of the time. But
yes,
the next episode, the Spellman house, for some reason, is the brightest I've ever seen it.
Yes, it's definitely jumping ahead, but yeah, it's like it has good potential for a monster in this one, and then you actually see it in the next one. Yeah. To be fair, like most monster movies, when you actually see it properly, it's not as scary. That's like most monster films. Yeah. Although on the flip side, there is Cloverfield, where like you never see it at all, and you're just like, this is so disappointing.
I just want to look at the fucking monster.
I guess movie makers and filmmakers just can't win. I'm sorry.
They can't. It's just, sorry, everybody. But yeah, I want to jump ahead and talk about that a little bit. Anyway, that's the end of that episode. So, Valanda, how would you rate this episode?
We have ragged on this episode quite hard. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But I actually did kind of like it. There are things in here that are super wrong, but there are things in here that are super cool. They touched on some really interesting things, and I like the fact they still had a story for B-Team, which was actually vaguely interesting, and I would like to have seen more of that. And Ambrose. I love Ambrose. So I'm gonna give it 3 broomsticks. Yeah, it wasn't bad. Drew?
Right. Sadly, I'm gonna give it a 1 because those tropes that I mentioned are my least, like some of my least favorite, like young adult tropes of, oh, this teenager figures something out that no one else has ever figured out because the power of plot.
Yeah, the power plot.
And it's like, okay, like I get that the character is like supposed to be special and all this other stuff, but just through sheer goddamn random chance, somebody would likely solve it because there's 70 people constantly poking at it. Somebody would just through probability be like, I got it.
Yeah, I can understand why it rates so low, but there are things in there I think they did right, and it feels like a massive setup episode.
It really does. Again, it's not like the worst episode, but those tropes make me roll my eyes so much that, like, sorry, have to ding it. Like, it's just, nope, sorry.
That's a fair comment.
I can't do it. It's why when I mean, I don't read it as much as I used to, but when I'm reading, like, if I pick up a young adult novel, if it hits one of these tropes, like, I'm just like, nope, I'm done. Fuck that. Now, again,
Yeah, it's always the best at everything trope.
yeah, it didn't make me want to stop watching the series at all. Like, it wasn't, I wasn't like, oh god, because it was still perfectly fine. Just, I dislike those tropes a lot. It doesn't detract from the overall series itself, but it's not something I ever want to see. Please stop it.
I mean, to be fair, I completely forgot this episode. And it generally, like, these ones are generally because I don't watch a lot of, like, teen drama-y things anymore. I did when I was a teenager.
Makes sense.
Kind of doesn't really appeal to me.
That logic tracks.
Can't do. The thing is, I didn't have a lot of drama in my teens. I'm not gonna lie. Like, all this teen drama thing is supposed to, no, that never really happened with me. That really wasn't my stick. So I just kind of watched it vicariously, like, people are way more popular. These are what things are supposed to happen. Like, this never happened to me.
I never saw this.
Older, I'm like, the reason I don't have this drama in my life is because I don't actually like it. I think that's why I completely forgot this episode.
Oh, yeah, no, I gotta knock it a little bit.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, I guess that's it then.
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's it in the can.
If you wanna
Do
start
the thing.
with the things, the bits.
All right. You can find me on Twitter at volley_Londa. You can find the TLD episode coming out tomorrow, whoop, 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 where they do cool things. We're still debating what it's going to be called, but we have a few good ones on hand for what it's going to be called. We're so excited. White Vault episode 2.8 comes out on Tuesday on general feed, and it's so freaking good and amazing. And I really have to shout Lana Minnelli and Aethel because they did fucking amazing jobs in this episode, and Travis because Travis edits and it's really good. I think that's probably everything you're gonna find me this week because I'm like head into editing right now. So yeah, I think that's probably me out and done, my man. Drew.
I have been Drew Tillman, and you can find me on Twitter, NotThatDrew, where I have been slightly better about posting things.
Good job.
A little bit, trying to be better. You can find me playing Krusk on Taking Initiative tomorrow. That actually comes out. We're on episode 51.
Jesus.
Yeah, 51, everyone. So if you're listening to Taking Initiative, it's getting close to the end. I have some other stuff coming up, but nothing really worth announcing right now. At some point, I'll be in Dark Dice. Yay!
At some point.
At some point in the future. Yay!
Oh, damn it. I've got to have an episode due out soon. Oh, wait, no, that's February. Never mind.
No. It's going to be a little bit for the next episode, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, like you don't know. Like, I don't think we're even through day one of recording yet.
I don't think so. I think the last episode that came out was episode 2 and then Meet the Bard, maybe?
Yep. Meet me.
Yeah, so episode 3 hasn't even appeared yet.
Yeah, I think episode 2 ends maybe like 2 hours into day 1 recording. We did like 6 or 7 hours on that first day.
So at some point, like next year, I will appear.
Yeah, I mean, I got to transcribe those episodes, so.
So don't hang on waiting for me, but it'll happen.
One day soon.
But as always, thank you for joining us here. We will see you again next week, and you can find this episode on iTunes Friday-ish.
Some point over the weekend.
Some point. I will edit it. It will go up. You can listen to it again if you really want to remind yourself what happened in episode 4. Or instead, just come watch us on Sunday be goofy.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.